I realize people drop off when you say the word.
How much do you make on AdSense in a month?
Probably around...
You are potentially in one of the most replaceable genres. Do you need to grow out of this?
We've got a volcano guy in every country.
And candidly, what I'll say is I don't think it's funny enough.
If you've got that, you've got a good video.
That's a quick path to a short career. Were there ramifications for that?
I was very paranoid for a couple of weeks/months afterwards.
I can't wait to read these.
I first started watching Max Fosh when he had around 30,000 subscribers. At the time, he was making a Man on the Street series called Street Smart, where he interviewed posh people in London. And today, with over 2 million subscribers on his channel, Max has some of the best and most unique ideas on YouTube. He ran for mayor of London, he became the richest man in the world for 7 minutes, and he recently, at the Sidemen charity match, pulled out an Uno reverse card on a ref, creating the most viral moment from the game. Now, Max is incredibly successful on YouTube, but what's made him uniquely interesting to us is that he was able to sell out the London Palladium for his first ever comedy show. In this episode, we talk about his process for coming up with ideas. We talk about how chasing virality has impacted his life and how he gained 500,000 subscribers in China. Now, as you can imagine, YouTube is getting more and more competitive when it comes to ideas. But there's a suite of AI tools that top creators are using to help them stand out. And it's made by the sponsor of this episode, Spotter. If you watch our channel, then you're familiar with Spotter. They work with creators like Eric, Destroying, Kanigra Dion, Dude Perfect, and 400 other creators. They've paid out over $800 million to creators through catalog licensing deals, and they accelerate creators' careers not just through capital, but also through knowledge and tools. These AI tools were developed right here in our studio with a group of top creators and the Spotter team. The first one I'm going to show you is called Title Exploder. So the way this works is you type in an idea for a YouTube title. Then you have the option to rephrase the title, shorten the title, reverb the title, or explode it. When you click explode, you'll get a ton of options for different variations of the title. These are based on your channel as well as the highest performing videos on YouTube. Now, if you don't have a title yet for your video or you don't really know where to start, you can use Idea Generator. This allows you to input a topic for a YouTube video or just have the AI generate ideas based on your channel. We've actually been introduced to a ton of creators that we could profile through this feature. And when you're ready to go deeper with your idea, you can use Idea Workshop. So you can just type in what your video is about, select your video type, and then you'll get a concise framework of how to best build out your video. And you can pin the ideas you like so you can save them for later. So if you're interested in checking out these AI tools, click the link in our description, go to join.spotter.com and book a time to chat with the Spotter team. You can learn more about how to use Spotter Labs and everything that Spotter has to offer to accelerate your career. All right, now for our conversation with Max Fosh. Welcome to the show, Max.
Thank you very much. This is awesome.
We were talking about how to contextualize you, like how to talk about you.
Yeah.
And it came
British
across,
Colin, basically.
Yeah, British
Exactly.
Colin, because
Yes.
you guys are wearing the same thing.
Yeah, green's our color.
Yeah.
I feel like we really sandwiched you
Yeah, you
today
did.
in green.
Yes. But there was a great tweet from a woman named Helen.
Right.
Are you
My mum's
familiar
also
with
called
Helen?
Helen. So.
The Twitter handle is @HellsForHeroes. And she was talking specifically about your most popular video. She said, YouTube prankster pays £4 to install welcome to Luton sign on the approach to the Gatwick airport. And I underlined the term YouTube prankster.
Oh, I hate that word so
Is that,
much.
yeah, I was going to ask you if you see yourself
No.
as an internet or YouTube prankster.
No. I mean, look, people can call me whatever they want. I've
Yeah.
been called much worse. I think prankster has just inherently got quite a negative
Yeah, it
word.
does.
I think purely because of like the history of pranking. So way back in 17, like no, I think pranking like has this connotation. I don't know, but the word is just synonymous with this like idea of punching down. And so when I'm thinking about any of the stunts that I do, it's always like, okay, it needs to kind of be victimless. And actually that particular video, the Welcome to Luton video, I think one of the top comments is, I love this video because it's not, no one is a victim. It's just it's a universal, fun, silly thing that everyone can look at, and you kind of exhale out your nose. You're like, oh, that's fun. And so, like, people can call me. I get influencer quite a lot, but I'm sure you guys get influencers a lot as well.
Yeah.
Never
I don't
influenced
think
anybody in my life.
We're not that influential.
But like, if you just make YouTube videos, we are inherently just influencers.
Yeah.
And I just say you don't call kind of Donald Trump an influencer, do you?
So if you don't,
But he is.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty.
If you don't say pranks,
Yeah.
you say stunts. I do stunts on YouTube.
Actually, I was with a friend of mine the other day, and someone said hello, who watched the videos, really nice, and their mate didn't know the videos that I made. And they were like, oh, what kind of videos do you make? And I said the words, I make silly pranks. And I walked away, and my friend turned to me and said, never say that ever again. Because I actually don't really know how I would kind of explain what I do. It's all based in silliness. I think silly storytelling is probably the best way to contextualize what I do. It's answering a question you kind of like, you would never think of.
Yeah.
Is basically my videos.
We wrote down some of your titles.
Yeah.
Just to like contextualize again. To
Sure.
people who,
that's what I do. I then like start reeling off titles
right.
to people. Then that's when they start to get it.
So I paid a private investigator to follow me for a month.
Yeah.
I broke into the International Security Convention.
Yeah.
I hatched a fish from supermarket caviar.
Yeah.
I made tourists think they landed at the wrong airport. I took out life insurance whilst risking my life.
Whilst.
Yeah.
That's a new word for me.
Whilst.
Yeah.
Whilst?
No, whilst.
Watch me for a while, Colin. You'll pick up some new words.
Yeah. I spent 24 hours with a literal elephant in the room.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And of course, actually, no, of course, nothing.
Of course, nothing else.
Out of the list.
Right. Yeah.
But I do have down here, ran for London mayor.
Yes. So yeah, I think those are. I mean, one that I like to really give people is I legally became my parents' favorite child. That's one that often kind of really contextualizes what I do. But those videos, in the office, there's three of us. We like to talk about teams on YouTube. I've got a team of three, Aziz and Molly, and we talk a lot about something called superlative scale. So it's basically big thing, small thing, rude thing to polite thing. And so that is a good way in which we kind of think of ideas, because that's essentially what comedy is. The structure of writing a joke is misdirection. So with YouTube videos and YouTube titles, I think you can still convey that humor and like entertainment stuff through the title. So that's where a lot of those titles have come from.
That's really cool. The one thing I think of when I think about your content is like juxtaposition, which is essentially what you're saying.
Exactly what I was.
But one of the biggest like juxtaposing forces is the silliness of the idea and the amount of effort you're putting in.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, there's a channel called Unnecessary Inventions.
Yes.
Are you familiar?
Love Unnecessary.
So Maddie's amazing, but
croc gloves.
Yeah, it's so funny. But it's funny because it's unnecessary and he's putting so much work into it. And I think that's what I feel with your content too. It's like, why would someone do this? Oh, but look at the lengths he's going. You know, like those two things are juxtaposing forces, but they're very funny when put together.
Yeah. It's funny, the why, the question of why is something that I love about YouTube, because there doesn't need to be a why. In the conversations I've had whenever I've spoken to kind of TV execs and I'm kind of pitching an idea.
Oh, wow, cool, man.
No.
Yeah, that just painted a totally different picture.
No.
Often sitting with TV execs.
I actually call them just TV execs. It's just, hi, TV exec. And as you can tell, I'm not doing anything TV related, so those meetings aren't going very well. But whenever I'm kind of like pitching ideas, the question always is, but why are you doing that? And I said, well, I personally don't think there needs to be a why. Sometimes the why is really good and it helps the video and the storyline. But the why for a lot of the times in the YouTube videos aren't needed. And we are often thinking that we want to convey in the videos that I would be doing this anyway. Me as Max Fosh would be doing this silly thing anyway, but we're just bringing a camera. A camera just happens to be there for the ride.
Yeah.
And that is so we shoot really low ratio on phones most of the time. The setup is really, really simple, because I think that's really, really important for the audience to kind of feel like it's just silly, posh, floppy-haired guy just having fun.
What about the macro why, though? Because there has to be at some point a why for you of why you pursue all of these things.
Sure. I think that is because I genuinely enjoy it. Like, YouTube has provided an opportunity for me to do things that are just inherently really fun and really silly. But I've been doing my entire life. I've always been doing these kinds of things, and to make it my job, and that really, really invigorates me and makes me get up in bed in the morning. Like my first week at university, I realized that the desk in my dorm room was the exact width of the elevator in the building. And so at midnight, me and 2 friends, we didn't go out. We did still have a few drinks, and we moved my entire desk with my laptop, my plant, my lamp, my books, everything into the lift. And I was facing away from the door. And so like at 2 in the morning, like bleary-eyed students coming back. And the doors would open, I'd turn around like, what are you doing? Get out.
That's so good.
And so that I've always been doing really stupid things like that. And so YouTube just afforded me an opportunity to do this just as a job. And that is kind of the wider macro. I'm 28, so I think I'm going to have to grow out of that at some point. But there are various things that I'm doing to try and make me as good of a storyteller and things as possible.
I was wondering about that, of do you need to grow out of this? Because in some ways, I was listening to you talking about your Street Smart series, or your Man on the Street series that you were doing at universities, interviewing students. And you talked about how you did age out of that because you can't be 27 or 28 outside of college campuses, right, late at night. But for pranks or silly pranks, there actually are comps in Hollywood for like a Nathan Fielder, right?
Yeah.
Like there are some people who do it into their older age. I'm curious how you think about that.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you just opened my mind that maybe I don't need to have like
Maybe
Colin.
I wonder,
I mean, I watched the first episode of Jury Duty the other day, and like that's just one massive elaborate prank with the guy, and he just I haven't actually watched the end, but I think that it's all positive and wholesome and nice at the end, and I think that's the most important part. But yeah, Nathan Fielder.
I mean, and you know all these TV execs.
Yeah, I know the TV guys.
You're fine.
Just in my phone, it's just bracket TV execs. So yeah, maybe not. I mean, there is definitely an evolution that can occur, and there's been an evolution in the kind of the videos that I've made in the 4 or 5 years I've been making videos.
I do think it's interesting when you're pulling off ideas like the ones you do that are largely seen as like very original. I think one of your videos, like you took out life insurance whilst
risking my life.
I get caught on that word, but that's like a pretty original YouTube title. Like people have done wing walking on YouTube, but that's a very original title. But the scale of these ideas when they go out, reaching millions of people, you're oftentimes known as that guy.
Yes.
Right? Like
you're that guy.
You're that guy.
What are you guys getting this? You're those podcast guys.
Those guys.
Yeah, we're just the handsome multicultural duo. But but for you, like I'd imagine anyone could come up to you on the street right now and be like, "Oh, you're the Welcome to Luton guy," which I assume is probably the biggest, right?
The biggest is you're the interviews posh people guy.
Really,
still,
the street smart guy.
Still, like I'm
interesting.
They don't really get the street. They never quite get the branding in there.
Got it.
But it's
you do the Man on the Street videos.
Yeah, you're the. But it's mainly of all the 150 video episodes I made of Street Smart. It's the posh ones that did super well.
Do you ever get caught up with that with your ideas of like having your ideas define you like that, where as you're putting out new work or new things, like, oh, that's the thing now that I'll be referred to as. Because we had that on YouTube when we were first starting out, and we were exploring a lot of different formats. The thing that would always get me so caught was when we would meet someone and we were over here. We had already experimented past that format, but they knew us for that. Yeah. Like there was a moment in time where we made a skateboard company and made a whole series about making skateboards. And it was really fun, and we sold the skateboards, and it was great. And then we had moved.
You went behind the back of a car as well. You got the shot. Guys, I'm fan.
Oh, wow, you're a fan.
I'm deep cut.
But we went like deep past that. And we went to a meeting like 2 years later, and someone was like, "So, skateboards." And we were like, we're not.
Like, oh wow,
we're not those guys. We're these guys now. Yeah. And I think that's an interesting thing about YouTube, that like people know you for what you're putting out, and at the scale of these ideas, I imagine like that is what you get known for. Right?
But in my opinion, it's almost none of my business.
Interesting.
It's got nothing to do with me, because if you start to try to control that guyness. Then where do you get to? You get to a point where you're racked with anxiety and fear as to what you're going to produce next. So, and also it's out of your control. Like I'm also known a lot of the time for, I had a viral clip where I just said, I don't know my fruits. A slice of pomegranate in there as well.
No, darling, it's not pomegranate. What do you actually think it is? Give it another go.
It's grapefruit.
Yes, there we go.
I don't know my fruits.
You're that guy.
I'm that
you're
guy.
the I don't know my fruits guy.
Yeah, exactly. I actually got that in a pub the other day. She's like, I don't know my fruits guy. And I was like, yeah, hi. And then she said, can you do it? It's like in Shrek, like, do the roar. And I was like, I don't know my fruits. Yeah. Everyone in the pub cheered. The TV execs were there. They gave me a show. It was a whole thing. But what was I trying to say there? So I'm a different guide depending on where you watch the content. And on TikTok, that was a 50 million view video and did 50,000 videos of people doing the sound. And I had no way of thinking. I mean, I remember talking to my editor Aziz. We were cutting down lots of old Street Smart videos into TikTok clips. Yeah. And we were talking about the specific clip being like, I don't think this has any comedic merit whatsoever. And he was just like, I just put it up anyway. And so we did. And then that flew. So we would have had no foresight as to that would have been what I was going to be, that guide for the next 2 years.
So let's talk about being the Welcome to Luton guy. Yeah. Because that video, I found that video to be incredibly funny. Thank you. And I had no context as to what Luton Airport was, right? But, or, Gatwick or anything. Now I do have context as Gatwick.
He's a traveled guy.
Candidly, Gatwick sucks, just so you know. Yeah, I'm just going to say that. But the Luton video,
for one, I believe Gatwick is a phenomenal place, and I love all of the people there.
Watching from
also
Gatwick.
Have nothing wrong with Luton, for the record.
But
neither do I,
but
officially.
So
everyone can relate.
It's this guy.
Really?
Airport hater over here.
Air his grievances.
Yeah. God.
Anything else?
What do you think about security?
While you're here?
Okay, let's not get me canceled on this show, okay?
Hey, you did it to yourself.
I want to talk about that idea and kind of where that comes from and the concept of originality in ideas and just overall, what was your relationship? Because that is your most popular video. Yeah. And again, it is very fun, lighthearted, funny. It's a harmless prank, but it touches on an experience that we all have, which is going to an airport, right? And that to me is, again, part of the magic of what you do, which is not only is it juxtaposing forces, it's familiar environments that you play in.
It's hashtag relatable, guys. That's what it is. But back to the creativity of that idea. To go slightly further back, when I literally first started making YouTube videos, I was doing the man on the street stuff at my university, Newcastle University in the north of England. And there was a television society at the university that was doing the same thing. They were interviewing students on nights out. And I applied to be a presenter. So I thought, I think I could do a good job on here. They turned me down and said, we've got our presenters. I was like, that's fine. I'll just, it's on the street. I can just grab a camera. I can do it myself. And so I realized there that you can take existing ideas and tweak it. I know you guys talk a lot about the book Steal Like an Artist. Yeah. And I've taken that concept of taking something that already exists and just adapting it to your style and your voice. And that's exactly what happened with Welcome to Luton. There was a guy, there's always news clip, these Instagram pages that just kind of have history unveiled or revealed, and it shows old stories from the past. And there was a guy in Milwaukee who has Welcome to Cleveland written on his roof, and he's had it there for 30 years. And I saw that and thought, that's a really good story. It's a really fun story. How do I make this UK-centric in my voice? And that's how the video got born out. Luton is known as having a bit of a bad reputation for being not in London, far out, difficult to get to. So it would be quite funny if someone's coming into land and they thought they were in Luton and said that's literally as simple as it is from the video's point of view. But it's taking something that already exists and tweaking it. And not all the videos are. Some of them are genuinely an idea that I've had that I haven't seen elsewhere. But a lot of the videos are just taking things that exist and just changing them.
While you're doing an idea like that, like Welcome to Luton, do you know that it's going to hit?
Oh, that was the most stressful video.
Okay.
Because we had rented the land. The land cost, we'd found this perfect strip. It was a perfect kind of rectangle just as you come into the land. The family who owned the land weren't doing anything with it. And I remember I managed to agree to them for $3,000 for 60 days, £3,000 for 60 days. And they just looked at me like, you're mad. What are you doing? And I was like, no, it's fine. Just leave it to me. And I made the letters. Got this incredible artist called Angus who made the letters. We wrote it out. And then all I had was just tarpaulin on the ground. It required an organic reaction from Twitter or social media or somebody. And that was the scariest thing because there was if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have had an ending. it would have been a video which would have flopped. It'd be like, oh, see, that was funny over there. But luckily, a woman called Abby was flying home from Mexico. She tweeted it, and the tweet organically just went super, super viral. And that's what picked up all the traction. And then I came out and said, haha, it was me. So that was a nail-biting and scary video, because we could have spent thousands of pounds and just had absolutely nothing to show for it. But I think that's some of the risks that you've got to take, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
I think what's interesting about that video too is that, if you watch the intro, you bring up the guy from Milwaukee. There's also a lot of influence from Yes Theory with the Justin Bieber
with the burrito
prank.
Yeah.
We were watching that and going, wow, these intros, like, they're so similar.
Yeah.
Curious how YouTube influences a video like that, as well as like finding a comp from something on Instagram where like that guy is in Milwaukee.
So that was the Milwaukee. That was just the core of the seed of the idea. And then when it's putting together the video, we in the office have the hook and the exposition. Or sometimes it's one and it's called the hook's position.
That's fun.
Yeah. So a hook is normally 5 seconds.
We will definitely use that.
Nick it. Fine, guys, take it.
People may cite us.
Actually, it'll be cut out of this show so that we can
then
use that as our own.
The first time. Yeah. So a hook is a 5-second solitary clip from the video, and then it goes into a boom. So we sometimes have hook boom, hook's position, or hook and exposition.
Yeah.
And then
wait, explain the boom?
So boom is, if you watch some of the videos, it'll be like, I'm just trying to think of a video where there is...
I understand what you're saying. There's like a montage in the beginning that kind of is
you mean like the sound effect.
Like literally a black
and it's black screen.
And bloom.
Yes,
of course. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So that was a good example of that was the security convention, where I go, it's like, I'm here at the security convention and the security guard is my cameraman. Boom. That's and then you can have the exposition start. And then that's 60 seconds normally of the why. Like Paddy Galloway, actually you told me this. Paddy Galloway, great YouTube guru guy, said the title is your what, the thumbnail is your how, and the first minute is your why. And so that exposition is setting the scene of why I'm doing this. It's a vague outline of the video. And then after that minute, you can get into what we call the kitchen shot, where I'm sat there scheming, how do I do this? And that's a comfortable world for the consumer, the viewer to be in. And I got that from watching Zach Alsop's videos, Yes Theory's videos, so many people who have come before as to, okay, how do you structure this? And then slowly over time, as you do it more and more yourself, you start to you almost kind of yes-anding like an improv, and you're adding your own layer and your own style on top of an existing format idea.
The one thing that you do that I think is very unique in that structure is that most of your videos, the hook is the ending.
Yeah.
You are, it's almost like, to me, I was looking at it and I was like, it's the punchline of the joke is the beginning of the video.
Yeah.
Like the hatching an egg from Caviar.
Yeah.
The hook is showing me that you hatched the egg successfully and that there's a little fish.
Yeah.
So I think I wanted to ask you, because we have an idea of this, but how do you justify showing me the end of the video in the beginning and expecting me to stay?
So, great question. You guys know what you're doing. So we call some of those ideas Instagram ideas. There are some videos that we call Instagram ideas, where you can just see it on Instagram. You're scrolling. You get all of the entertainment and value you need from a picture and a caption. You laugh and you scroll through. You don't want an Instagram video, because you're right. You watch that first 20 seconds and then there's nothing. Hopefully with the hook, it provides another question as to, okay, I know that he's done this, what he said in the title. So I've earned the click there. They've clicked on, has he hatched a fish from Caviar? You see the fish. Oh my God, he's done it. Hopefully then we want the audience to then be thinking, okay, but how? So like with the security convention, I've snuck in, I'm using the security guard as the cameraman, but what happened after that? Did he get caught? How did he get in? Is he using his real name? So we're hoping to elicit some extra questions that will want someone to stick around to the end. Doesn't always work, and we sometimes see like huge retention drop off after the first 10 seconds because they've got what they came for. Great, happy days. But yeah, that's a problem that we're always trying to face.
It's a risk, but potentially more of a necessity the more hyperbolic YouTube gets with titles and thumbnails, where everyone seems like they're titling and thumbnailing around something they probably didn't fully do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To like actually click and sort of be surprised that, oh, actually, Max did do this,
yeah.
even though my assumption when I clicked was there's no way he did this.
Absolutely.
I also think the people who make it past that hook are the people you want.
Yeah.
Like that's a higher quality audience because now you've weeded out the people who were there for the idea. And you now have Max Fosh fans, right? And I think that sometimes creators, we all trade a higher number for a lower quality audience when actually what we're looking for is a very high quality, deep audience.
Yeah.
And I will say that
the Fosh pit.
There it
Guys,
is, yeah.
join the Fosh pit.
But there's something that makes you incredibly unique. And it's something that I think, you know, Colin and I were very excited about and excited to talk to you about, which is the fact that not only are you, you know, succeeding on YouTube right now, but you sold 2,000 tickets to the London Palladium for a stand-up show.
Yeah.
And I think the future for creators and what all creators need to keep in mind is like the successful creators are going to be the ones who can fill a room. Because there's a lot of creators who get millions and millions of views who cannot fill a room.
And I think that's the problem that Shorts is not helping.
For sure, of course.
I think that, I mean, the stand-up comedy was done because firstly, I had an audience. I knew that I didn't really want to put my name on a t-shirt. That wouldn't do very well. I've always been into drama and theatre, and so I wanted to write a show and I wanted the opportunity to perform. And I got linked up with a director called Ed Stambaluyan, who in the UK works with some of the biggest comedians in the UK. And luckily he's a huge YouTube fan. And so I found like the perfect creative partner to work with me on that. But that also was an experiment in trying to make me as versatile as an entertainer as I possibly could be. I knew I could tell a story in 10 to 15 minutes on YouTube and make someone laugh and have them there. How good am I at doing that for 60 minutes on stage where there's no retakes, there's no repeats, and there's 2,000 people that have paid 20 quid to sit there? And that is why I spent a lot of time writing the show. I did a tour for kind of a number of months and did the Edinburgh Fringe Festival where you perform every day for a month, which is kind of a rite of passage for all comedians. And I wanted that so that when I if I ever do leave YouTube or as I grow older, I can go into any room with the TV exec.
I was going to say, this is all leading back.
It's all back to the exec.
And they're watching.
And they're watching.
They're just doing it for them.
Yeah,
really.
I'm doing it for them. I could go in and be like, I've got, it's kind of like a buffet. Like, I'm like, I've got the 2 million subscribers, sir. No, okay, you're not interested. That's no problem. I've got the Night of the London Palladium with stand-up. No, okay. I've got my writing over here. Would you like a taste of that? So that is my, I'm trying to become as well-rounded as I can.
But they're all interconnected.
They are all interconnected.
You know, I watched the special and to me, it was like a live performance YouTube video. Yeah. And I would imagine that, you know, there's a term in film school that we learned, which was mise en scène, right? Which is essentially whatever happens in front of the camera. So you put, that type of filmmaking is like you put the camera down and then the scene is like whatever's happening in front of there. The furniture, whatever's there, it's just like, that's it, no cuts, what's happening. It's essentially, you know, theater. And I think watching you in that special, I was like, oh, this practice has made you better at being a creator. Because now you look at the camera and you're like, whatever's the performance in front of the camera needs to be interesting. I can't rely on the editing to be interesting. Right. And so like, you know, Colin and I, when we were watching your videos over the past week, we were talking about that you are showing us stuff that is inherently interesting, that's happening in real life, in real time, right? Like hatching an egg is a visual thing that is happening in front of the camera that is inherently interesting, that we can watch and see. You don't have to rely on editing to make that interesting.
No. And the editing is so simple.
And sometimes you include the proof. In the Welcome to Luton, as you're putting out the letters, there's a guy doing like construction there.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, are you pranking the people?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah. And he's like, he just starts cracking up.
Yeah. And that was a really fun, I want to find that guy, so I want to thank him because it was a lovely beat in the video where he immediately, and it was a real relief for us. Where we're like,
you're like, oh, what a good idea.
Okay, it's a good idea.
It affirms to me watching that, oh, this is a good idea. Like, this is something worth my time that's funny.
Absolutely.
The thing I really loved, and I think I look at your stand-up special, which I would encourage everyone to check out. It's fantastic. I absolutely loved it. But I look at that and your YouTube videos as like, there's a incredible similarity in the way you're engaging with the material. Like in your stand-up special, it's primarily interactions with the crowd. And it's like the crowd is making the show with you. Which is so cool. It's such a cool element to that show. And I imagine on YouTube too, it's like, you've done a lot of serialized content too, which, you know, running for mayor, I would say, is an example where the crowd, like the audience, feels like they're participating in that as well.
And that's like, we realized very early on that the people who are coming to the stand-up show are people who have watched the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So I can't be going up there and doing 60 minutes of like one-liners because it was like, what are you doing? So we needed it to be a show that was just towing the line that the YouTube audience, the people who watch me on YouTube, they would enjoy, but also they'd bring their mums and dads, their brothers and sisters, their friends who had no idea what I did. And so we needed it to cater to them. And then finally, we kind of, after doing a lot of kind of like preview shows, me and director Ed realized that my strength was in my audience interaction because I'd spent 3 years doing man on the street content. So I had weirdly been working on my stand-up and knowing how to get a laugh out of somebody. Okay, that question is going to lead them to one of two answers. I'll have a response for one of those two answers. And that we worked on that a lot. And we've realized the improv side of what I do is kind of a lot stronger than a lot of other areas.
For sure. I would encourage, Colin and I have both taken improv. And I would encourage all creators to take improv.
100%.
To become a better performer, like to work on the craft of being a performer. And we also do a lot of speaking, which forces us to stand in front of a crowd, say things, and feel how they react. You know, like
it's so immediate.
It's so immediate.
So much more comfortable with bombing on stage. Not that we bomb that often.
But sometimes we do.
But we started taking more risks when we were doing events and speaking, and some of them did not go well at all.
Yeah. But
But you just go like, oh, I failed a million times at improv last week. Like, it's all right. Like, what are you going to do?
We try, and when we speak, we go out and we try and within the first, 5-10 seconds, say something that elicits a reaction to feel the warmth of the crowd.
So, right. Okay. So give me some examples of what you're saying.
Go out and be
any
like,
TV execs in the room.
Clap if you're a TV exec. No. Well,
the moment that we bombed that I'm talking about specifically.
Is it me?
No. Both of us together. So it was this show, like a live show being put on by YouTube, and in between the different sessions, there were ballet dancers that would come out, and like they would dance, but also move the furniture around to the next setting of whatever it needed to be.
Okay, who was the creative director of that decision? I want to know.
I don't know, but we thought, wouldn't it be funny if we arrived on stage ballet dancing after the dancers? That would be unexpected.
I'm in.
Unexpected. And we're looking at each other at the last minute. We're like, are we doing it? Are we doing it? And we're like, yeah, we're talking about it. We got to just do it. And we went out, and I like held my arms out, and Samir came up and like
picked him up,
picked me up, and moved me around, and
not a single laugh.
Nothing.
How long was the segment? How long?
That was the beginning.
That was
of the
just.
segment.
I mean, I don't know that we committed long enough to it. To the bit, and it was like kind
there was
of
also
dark.
a huge screen above us.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons people didn't laugh.
Your Honor, it was also a good bit.
We have the footage, so we can play it over this.
Yeah, and people will laugh at home.
But it was amazing.
We'll never
just add the laugh track.
Yeah, we'll never know.
It was
but
just
they'll
like
laugh.
crickets, like nothing.
Fine.
And that was the beginning of us having to go out and speak. So you just have to swallow it and be like, all right.
Yeah. But we'll come out
2.
and we'll say something, even as simple as like, all right, how we doing tonight?
Yeah.
And you'll just feel if they're warm or not immediately. And I think that immediacy is very different from the experience of this, right? Like we have no idea what the experience is right now for someone. Or how warm they are, or how cold they are to the conversation. If they're engaged in this part or not, you can see that.
If they've just like flicked through the timeline to a certain point, in which if they had,
when is Max going to say
really
how much
weird.
money he makes? Yeah, what is this about?
Or just say something really weird out of context and just goat's cheese is my favorite of the cheeses. So there you go.
When I think about your genre, which I don't like calling it pranks, stunts, challenges, whatever it is.
Whatever you want to call it.
I think you are potentially in one of the most replaceable genres.
Yeah.
I really do. I think like if you pull someone away, there is an influx of pranks and challenges to entertain. I wonder how that experience and how in general you think about making sure you're not replaceable, that people want to come for you and not someone else.
I genuinely don't know the answer to that. I do not know, and I'm not going to try and sit here and kind of wax lyrical about why I think that I've got it sorted out, because I probably don't. I just try every single time to make a video that I would laugh to, or somebody will try and laugh to, and you evolve as a creator over time, and that's super important. But it's a worry, which is why I go back to the stand-up and the writing, just having other strings to my bow to be able to combat that if that does happen. If a newer, hotter version comes along.
I mean, I would argue, because I did start watching you about 3 or 4 years ago. I think I sent you a message a long time ago. I think you had maybe 30,000 subscribers at the time. And it was, for me, it was the personality. Like at the time, I was like, I really connect with British humor. I think British humor is very funny. And it was actually this concept of posh that I had been introduced to through Street Smarts, through your Man on the Street videos. And I was like, oh, I want to learn more about this culture. It's funny to me because whatever you're including is clearly supposed to be funny. So I'm now learning about this culture through these jokes.
Through humor,
And you were very endearing in that. But I think what was really interesting was the Man on the Street stuff puts a lot of onus on the interaction and on the like on what's happening. You have to go out and hope you come back home with an SD card that has good stuff. And I'm sure you strike out. People who do Man on the Street, we talk to them sometimes. And they're like, yeah, I went out and filmed all day. I got nothing. It's a hard thing because it's actually not about you. It's about if you're able to go create a scenario. And I think seeing you evolve into like leading with your personality has been what, for me, has kept me interested, right? And kept me wanting to watch.
If I was still making Man on the Street videos, like I would have been very boring.
But sometimes if the idea is too dominant in the video, I'm less interested.
That is wild to me.
And like
the kitchen shots are really, I think, for me, what connected me to it.
This is like changing my perception of how people watch my videos.
But it's hard because, you know, like even for us, I think all creators deal with self-worth issues. We are people who are looking for validation and being like, really?
Is this good? Is this good? Which one's good?
This is.
I'm hatching a fish from caviar over here. Like I'm wind walking over here. Hello.
Back to the buffet analogy. Caviar, no.
But we deal with this like, you know, self-worth of, are we good enough? If we put ourselves on camera, is that enough? Or do I need to do a bunch of other stuff? And for me, it's really interesting in watching your progression. Of course, like the big ideas are going to hit. You know, like they are going to be inherently interesting. People can't help but click on an idea like that. But as I watch the videos and watch you evolve, my hope is that you continue to make sure that your personality is at the forefront, because your comedy, your delivery, your personality is what connects us. And I think that's why people like Ryan Trahan are winning right now, or specifically Ryan is where he is, because he's one of the few creators that I would, at this point, I kind of like enjoy just watching him do whatever, because I just like his personality. I
think, and I'll be brutally honest here, I really don't think my self-esteem is at a high enough level for me to take that risk.
Right.
And I find it really interesting because I always think that I'm very replaceable with the idea, absolutely. And I remember we met in New York about a year ago, and you were talking about, I was like, you're like, yeah, I see you as a personality-based creator. I want to see you doing more things. And that surprised me so much because I really don't think that it's that interesting. And for me to risk, I'm getting to a point now, it's like, right, okay, how many more ideas do I have left of the big stunty things? Okay, I need to start to diversify. I need to have some intellectual property. I need to kind of make some more sustainable formats. But it just terrifies me, the idea that I take my foot off the gas of the ideas and try and put more of me in there. And then there's just kind of a slow progression, which is actually probably in the long run what is probably helpful and, healthy and sustainable. But I think my self-worth is too attached with numbers. And my sister's a therapist, and like I tried to talk to her about this. And I mean, she bless her, she gets all sorts of stick for being in the video. She's a great sport, but I do talk to her about this.
I mean, the reality is you by foregoing some of the titles and thumbnails that you get to use because of the stunts that you do, and leaning on personality, you probably would get less viewership, and you'd have to be okay with that and come to terms with that, and it would. You're not conditioned right now to be okay with that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There's probably an element, too, from a business perspective, it would change your business, right?
Have you guys experienced that?
Yeah, I think, but I've come to a new space with my relationship with numbers. Where if we build an audience that's only interested if we do something that is a bit uncomfortable for us, I don't want that audience. Because how long I'm now, you know, I'm turning 34 next month. Like I can't.
He looks great. He looks great, doesn't he?
It's not that
I'm
old.
turning 50.
Okay, yeah. To say he looks great assumes that my age is like unbelievably old. Like, oh wow, he looks great for his age.
Look at this guy. He's doing so well.
He's healthy
With his
now.
hair, certified
He can
hottie.
sit up straight for this long. Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying, sorry.
Yeah, if I have to like pretend for an audience, then if I had to do that for my career, I would have been an actor, which I tried to be, and I was terrible at it. I can't act. So I recognized that whatever version of myself that I can do for a long time, that's the version. And this show has created a situation where we get to just be ourselves.
Yeah.
And that, I'm just like, if you want to hang here with us and be a part of these conversations, then I'd love to have you.
Yeah.
But if this is not for you, then I don't want to convince you to stay here, because it's not healthy for me to pretend.
We
to
weren't
be
great
someone
at doing
else.
things that were uncomfortable.
No, we were terrible at it.
Like,
yeah.
What was your like iteration of you being uncomfortable?
Well, I mean, if you look at, I think you started watching us with the 24 hours to meet yes theory, right?
Yeah. Great vid. Watch
Like
it.
all
Absolute
indication would have said, do that again and again, 24 hours to meet someone else, go through these journey of trying to meet someone in 24 hours. Like the metrics said that's what we should do. And we just didn't do it because it was kind of a crazy, I just don't think we wanted to be known for that or go through those types of experiences.
And I think on the relationship with numbers, like that is something that we will all as creators, like I'm not going to sit here and say I'm evolved past that. You get a 10 out of 10. It feels like someone punched you in the stomach and kicked you in the face.
You're
right?
emailing YouTube. You're saying, why have you shadow banned me?
Yeah, or you're just like, I don't know. Like there's nothing that feels worse than that as a creator. And I would say now I have a little bit of a lighter relationship with all of it, and it does evolve. But as creators, we do have to now think about ourselves on a really long window. And I wonder if when I was really obsessed with numbers was when I thought it was all going to end the next month. I was almost living month to month as a creator, like looking at it as, and you are right now. And I would ask, because again, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I've watched your different attempts at this career.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all been it's a progression that makes sense when you look back. But where are you in your relationship to like the stakes of the career right now? Like, do you feel like the stakes are high? Like you're at risk of losing the career? Or like what is making you hold on to the numbers so much right now?
I genuinely think it's just elements of like, I am so tied. Like the name of the channel, I mean, with you guys, it's Max Fosh. It's me. And it is that number next in grey next to my name. And those things have almost kind of like, you could almost put a bracket, a parentheses on either side of that kind of bit of the channel, the YouTube homepage. And I hate myself for that. I hate myself that is, well, not hate myself, I hate that is in my thought process how it is. But I've got a lot better at being able to separate work from life. Like I used to work in there was a residence area in the bottom of my apartment block, but now I've got an office and I go punch in at 9 and leave at 6, and so that's helped a little bit of separation. I've brought more people into the team and made it slightly more like a media company, like a business. But I still don't know the answer as to what end. I still don't know the answer to what's this all for? Why am I making? Why am I? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm literally after this interview going to Iceland to cook a ready meal in an active volcano. Why?
And that's just for fun.
That's not for a video.
No, I'm not filming. I'm not filming.
He's just hungry.
I'm just hungry. Stag do. Dad, what's he like?
Yeah,
So,
I actually want to know, like right now, you're about to go do that.
Yeah.
Where's your energy level for doing that?
that really high, actually. I'm super
good.
excited.
I think it
I'm
has
super
to be.
excited.
It has
about
to
that.
be,
No,
right?
I'm super, because this is a video that we've been trying to make for over 2 years. We've got a volcano guy in every country where there is a volcano, and they're all on alert. Say, as soon as it erupts, give me a call. And our Iceland volcano guy gave me a call. He said, it's time to go.
Wow.
When was that call?
Last night.
Last night.
Yeah. And so,
because you texted me last night. You're like, I might have to go to Iceland. Yeah.
So
What's the title?
I cooked an oven-ready meal in an active volcano.
And how did you come up with that idea 2 years ago?
It was it's just a superlative scale. I was making an oven-ready meal. I was putting it in the oven. I thought, where's the weirdest place I could cook this? A volcano? Great, let's do it. So then
Was that before you had team? Because I know now you have Aziz and Molly.
Yeah, that was before I had a team. That was before I had a team. I had this idea. And then, weirdly, the same volcano erupted in Iceland last August. The exact dates that I was touring. From the day the eruption started to the day eruption ended, that was the tour dates.
Wow.
And so I was absolutely gutted. And what a shame. I was thinking, fuck comedy. Like, I'm missing out on the volcanoes, guys. But no, I'm super energetic about that. And I think that if you talk to me at the end of last year, before I got Molly involved and before Aziz and I changed up a lot of how we work, I was just crawling to the end of the year. I've now got a little bit more energy, and I think that that's with surrounding yourself with the great people and making the environment to work with really fun.
I would love to know how it's different traveling with them and getting to share this strange experience with them as opposed to going to Las Vegas by yourself for the adult film convention.
That was the worst day of my life. I went just before COVID in January 2020. I filmed a video at the AVN Porn Awards in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Hard Rock Hotel, and I turned up. I arrived by myself. I found a cameraman from Instagram by searching the hashtag
Las Vegas cameraman.
Las Vegas cameraman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got a lot of them were already at the convention.
Like a dangerous move.
Yeah, and I was walking around this. I had spent hundreds of pounds to be there, and I was trying to talk to porn actors and actresses, trying to get some silly things, and I was miserable. I was so low. I just sobbed when I got back to my hotel room. I was like, what am I doing? And I think that people is the most important part of the business. Like I saw you guys in LA about 2 weeks ago, and I was there with Zach. We were filming a collab, and I was there with his team. There were 6 of us, and we had the best time. It was great. And it was like, we were filming a YouTube video, but we were having fun with friends as well at the same time. And so I think that was...
I think this was advice from Tim Ferriss to us, but he was talking about decoupling the financial reward of being creative.
Yeah.
And the life reward, like the non-financial reward.
How does he do that?
So he just says there's 2 metrics, right? Like, so when we're done with this conversation, if we had fun talking to you, that's a reward. That reward is done. You can't take that away.
Yeah.
Now there's going to be another one, and that's going to be the performance reward. Does this episode do really well? Do people really love it? Is it...
No.
No.
Does it tank, right?
But at least we have the time.
We had one of them.
Yeah.
You got one.
But if you look at that and you go, actually the non-financial reward or the non-performance reward is so much more important because that's the majority of your life. The majority of your life as a creative is pursuing these ideas or pursuing this work. So if that's the majority of it, it's going to be, do you like hanging out with Molly and Aziz? Do you like going to work with them every day?
Is that a question? Because they are literally behind
if you
the
can
glass.
answer as honestly as possible to look them in the eye.
They're actually saying no.
No,
they don't like it.
saying
no.
Okay,
they've actually just walked out.
If anyone,
Aziz is holding a sign that says "I quit." Yeah, he's just
so Max Fosh currently hiring live on the show.
But like if you guys have a fun trip to Iceland and it's a unique experience, that is a reward.
Yeah.
And I think we have to hold on to that because if you're going to the AVN awards and all you're there for is the performance reward and you hate the life of
the video was demonetized, so I did.
So you got
didn't
zero.
Get that performance
so you got
reward,
0 rewards.
Yeah.
Yes. Then that sucks, right? That's like I think sometimes we've become so metric obsessed that it's like you just sacrifice whatever. You sacrifice your life for these numbers, right? Just fuck it. I'll just if I have to go fly over there and it sucks, doesn't matter. It's gonna do well.
Yeah.
So and I think that's a quick path to a short career, or at very unhappy career.
by foregoing the
life. Yeah.
Fun element for the numbers.
Yes. And I think we as creators don't think enough about what making it looks like. We just want to make it.
Yeah.
So like you think about yourself, and I'm curious about this, but like prior, 3 years ago, as you're really pushing on this YouTube thing. And you didn't grow much for a while.
No.
Right? You didn't have much growth, but you were committed to it, which means you really wanted to make it. You wanted this that you have right now, which then creates a new relationship with if all you want is to make it, then all you want once you've made it is to not lose it.
Yeah.
Right?
People, someone said to me, people are either trying to be successful or stay successful.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what it was like when I was trying to I was pushing, like I was looking forward to 5 years now when I'm sat on the Colin and Samir podcast, I'm not sure what I was trying to do. I was a bit of a deer in the headlights. And that's why I think it's so difficult for a lot of creators, because you celebrate the wins and and you commiserate the losses by yourself. It is so lonely. You edit, you shoot, you do everything by yourself. It's just quite crap. And so I don't really have anything more to say because I can't really remember, but I do remember COVID was the best thing that happened to the channel because I'm still doing the street interview thing. Then COVID, I couldn't make videos for 6 months. And that's when I tried something new, which was the trying to find the woman in a stock photo. And that was the first foray into storytelling, and it did super well. And it caused a global pandemic for me to stop being a little bitch, basically.
I mean, same. That was an accelerant for us too. As creatives, we need constraints and we need things that actually get us out of our whatever, funk we're in or whatever moment we're in. But I think that, part of the reason I would say that for me also, it doesn't feel that different what we're doing now. Obviously, there's a lot of difference to what we're doing now to when we were trying, mainly because we were just trying so many different things. Now we have a thing.
And we're not trying.
You're not trying.
Now we don't try. Yeah. But when I
can tell with the question.
When I look into the future, I'm like, it's not going to be that different from this. There might be more resources. Yeah. But now I've committed to this career. This is the thing. We will sit together and be like, is that a good idea? Should we do that? Is this an exciting interview? Yes. Let's take some notes on it. Let's do it. Is that the right title? Is that a good thumbnail? Could it be better? That's the thing we will do for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And that to me is making it. Getting to work with people you like on a project that you like.
I do want to say though, I feel like we're not complacent right now, but it is the first time in our career when we've been consistent.
And is there a lot to be lot to be said for consistency?
Yeah, I think we're experiencing a lot of growth, brand growth for sure. You can sink into a little bit of a lifestyle. But I also realize that we may have to be comfortable shaking that at some point now. Just because we've found something that's worked and we're consistent and we like it. But we do have to be ready to evolve again, I think.
Do you know what's funny is whilst we're talking about this, we're just slightly deeper about who we are. I'm thinking in my mind, I genuinely was just thinking, oh, they're going to need a story about a silly video in a second. I need to tell a silly story of an experience I've had in a video. So that in my mind, during this conversation, I'm like, no, they need a clip now of when I kind of how I got my sister to sign a contract that made her the inferior sibling, and that's just quite a wake up call for me to be like, okay, I'm so in tune to be audiences need to have a story. Stop talking about yourself. No one gives a shit. They need to have a story, which I do think is one of the most valuable pieces of advice you can give to someone who's starting out, which is that no one cares about what you're making. So you have to really take their 10 minutes or 8 minutes or 5 minutes and really make there's so much competition, so you win them over in that 10 minutes and that 5 minutes.
But you're so conditioned to be that guy who did that thing.
And
most times that you're probably on an interview, it's tell me about that thing.
Tell me about the school. Let's go to school. Do you want to do the school bit now or should we do it afterwards?
Well, I'll ask you about a video. The video that I want to ask you about is the video that kind of launched your channel, which is Zach and Jay's video.
Zach and Jay's vid.
I loved that video. I mean, a lot of people, 32 million people loved that video.
That's a YouTube history video.
It really is.
It is established.
What's the title of it? It's
I faked my friend to the top of London Fashion Week.
Isn't it funny how important titles are, but we can't remember?
And we can't remember.
Yeah, we can't remember.
It has 32 million views.
Yeah, it's just wild.
I remember watching that video, and again, being enamored with the first of all the creator scene in the UK, because I had not really been familiar with it at that point, but also so pleasantly surprised and excited by you. You were such a great character in that video.
That's very kind.
And the name, was it Maximilian Bucharest?
Maximus Bucharest.
Maximus Bucharest. Yeah. Just such a hilarious concept, and that I think is one of the greatest examples of the victim of that prank. Well, I guess you should describe the prank or the stunt.
The stunt was, can I turn this blank, unfashionable canvas of a man and take him to the top of London Fashion Week? And I had known Zach and Jay for about 3 months before we shot that video. when I first moved down to London, I was walking to Tesco supermarket we have here, and Zach walked past me, and I was a big, big fan of his. And I messaged him on Instagram being like, hey, I just saw you in the street.
Oh, you didn't talk to him?
I didn't even talk to him in person. Like, I was like, hey, I just saw you. If you ever need a cameraman, let me know. And weirdly, the next morning at 9 a.m., he messaged me saying, we actually need a cameraman in 45 minutes. Can you make it? And it was like one of those like looking over the clock, looking at my watch, looking at the phone. Yeah, I can do it. Just like montage. So I then started doing a bit of work as a camera guy. I was terrible. I didn't know how to. I put. Zach even said he realized that I only knew how to do autofocus and press record. That was it. So I was just basically a tripod,
which is almost
kind of everything you need. All of you DOPs out there, I know you've all got an autofocus, you liars. So I became matey with them, and then they said, we've got this idea to sneak you into Fashion Week. Are you in? And at this point, I was just trying to make it on YouTube. They had about 100,000 subscribers, and I thought anything out of this is a positive. Just to work with these guys is a really cool opportunity. So I did it. We turned up, we went to Primark, which is a kind of a cheap clothing store here in the UK, and just put together this monstrosity of an outfit. And we kind of filmed the video, and I remember I said to my dad, I was like, this is really exciting. And he said, well, let's just kind of temper expectations a little bit. And I said, well, I think I could get maybe 1,000 subscribers out of this. And then the video got launched, and I think I gained 100,000 subscribers in about 2 weeks. And like they went from 30,000 subscribers as a duo to 400K in a week. And it was like back in when that would happen. And we're actually, what was really nice, that we're seeing it more and more recently. There's a guy in the States called Preston Goes, who I love.
He just hit it.
He just hit it, and it was just a brilliant long form.
The Sticks guys.
Love them. What you're doing is amazing. And so we're starting to see it again, which is really exciting. But yeah, that was kind of what all allowed me to suddenly just be a YouTuber.
Was that exciting or scary?
So exciting. So exciting but then I just went back to making Street Smart videos. Like I didn't learn. They're like, oh, obviously they like it when there's a story behind it. We're doing something. What should I do? Interview people. Yeah. So I was just excited. It was just like I was the rat in the cocaine experiment where he presses the button on Social Blade and just refreshing and just seeing the numbers turn around and like, oh.
When did it click for you to actually do something similar to what they were doing, to tell stories like that, as opposed to going back to the man on the street?
It took me 18 months after that video.
18 months?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Colin says this sometimes, that as creators, we don't typically learn from our success. We learn a lot from our failures, but we actually never take lessons from our success. Like you're like, why are they subscribing to me?
Yeah.
Why did that video go so viral? You're just like, oh, great, now I have subscribers. I can keep doing the thing I do.
Yeah. That's exactly how I thought about it, which is wild.
Yeah.
But it was an incredibly exciting experience. It was like I had been so unsure as to what I was going to. I left university, and I was bigger into radio. Like radio was my thing. I spent 4 years at a hospital radio station called Radio Tyneside in the Northeast, and I got some good opportunities in the Northeast. And I walked in, they were kind of like demo auditions, and they were like, right, welcome to BBC Radio Newcastle. We got Max here on the mic. And I was like, hello, good to see you all. I obviously didn't get those jobs.
Why did you do that voice?
I don't know. Just thought I'd endearing them. I endeared myself to them. And so I was kind of big down into the radio side of things. There's a fun story. When I was at hospital radio, I nearly got fired because I played Highway to Hell by AC/DC on a hospital radio.
But that's good comedy.
It's good comedy.
That's good comedy,
The patients didn't love it. And so suddenly with this YouTube thing just exploding, it allowed me to think, oh, okay. Because all the Street Smart stuff was doing really well on Facebook. Facebook, it was pumping. This was 2017, 2018. But YouTube, it wasn't doing very well. So that's when I kind of thought, hey, YouTube could kind of work. And this was kind of before people on Twitter were writing threads about retention and click-through rates. And so it was kind of a bit
That's a recent thing. It's much more recent. Like
when
we were uploading,
people
it was
like writing those.
Yeah, it's much more recent.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so to be posh in the UK, what exactly does that mean? And does that have negative connotations to it? Because like you obviously, I think on your ring.
On my ring, I've got some branding that says posh twat.
Right. So you're like, you connect yourself to it. You talk about it a lot in the comedy special on the channel. It's like synonymous with the name Max Fosh.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to dig into what exactly
it means.
It means the stereotype of it, and why connect yourself to it.
I mean, I open my mouth and people like can tell.
Oh,
like,
really?
In the UK.
In the UK, people can just
because
tell.
I guess my accent to an American audience is like, oh, it's this British guy.
Yeah.
Isn't that good? But in the UK, like I talk and it's like, oh, this guy is posh, right? So I can't take that away. I'm not going to change my accent. I'm not going to change where I grew up with, but I can really take control of it and take control of myself. And so initially, the phrase posh twat is bandied around a lot.
What does posh mean? Explain it to our American audience.
Posh means someone who is predominantly not necessarily someone with money, but somebody from a status, an old like family status. There's history, there's heritage.
Yeah.
There are certain schools that posh people send their children to. They're normally boarding schools. It's kind of like the quintessential early 20th, mid 20th century British ideology.
Got
it's tea and crumpets, it's top hats.
Got it.
It's
So is it political as well, in a way?
And very political.
Like more conservative?
More conservative. If you look at the two kind of major boarding schools in the UK, Eton and Harrow, I went to Harrow. Eton has had 17 prime ministers of this country.
Wow.
Winston Churchill went to my school, Harrow. So it's so tied into the establishment. It is like being posh is being part of the establishment. And so, yeah, I mean, as a result, there's a lot of hatred towards posh people, but there's also a lot of fascination. Like in television, we have a show called Made in Chelsea, which is one of the most successful reality TV shows here in the UK, which just follows young 20-year-olds who live in Chelsea, a very posh part of London, and their lives. So there's this like weird fascination.
I mean, same with the US, right?
And same in the US.
Yeah, we're obsessed with wealthy people and their lives.
And so when I started doing interviews with posh people, it was kind of an absolute it was the perfect storm for that kind of content, because non-posh people loved watching posh people look like idiots.
Yeah. Okay.
Posh people weirdly loved other posh people looking like idiots. It's like this weird Stockholm syndrome where like I'll meet a posh person, they're like, oh, interview me like right now. What am I going to say? I'm going to do something so stupid and so
expose me, please.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
And a lot of comments I would get is like, well, this guy, the interview is also posh. I'd say, yeah, that's the show. That's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
And so in my early 20s, I kind of like when I got to university and I wasn't at this like boarding school, there was a lot of like, oh, you're a posh twat, or like, fuck off, or you're posh. And initially I was like, oh, well, no, I'm trying to be kind and polite to people. And I kind of realized, well, that's almost kind of none of my business. All I can do is be polite, kind, courteous, interesting, fun to be around, and that's all I can control. And so the posh twat ring is kind of like a little bit of an homage to, that's my background, I can't change
Taking
that.
ownership over it.
I'm going to take ownership of it.
Yeah.
I am. Some people might think I'm a posh twat, that's absolutely fine, but I know kind of better who I am.
Yeah. I do think we should talk about ideas. I know people, like, it's probably the most common question to ask you, right? And like when we sat down with a notebook and said, what should we talk to Max about? The first thing we said was, where does he get his ideas from? Like, where do these ideas come from? And then we watched something else of yours, and you were like, everyone asks me where I get my ideas from.
Where do
my
ideas come from?
Oh, no, that's our first question.
That's our question.
But I think it's a testament to your ideas.
Thank you.
Like, the fact that everyone wants to ask you that everyone's like, well, where do these ideas come from? And not because we're like, that's what the audience is here for, but it's because we're authentically curious. Like,
and it comes from a real place of like of love and
it's
my I actually I had to put a ban on my family saying you should do this, like, because you should make a video about this. I was like, guys, like, I really appreciate the support, and it's coming from a really positive place. But it is super frustrating because all of them are not very good. I'm not going to Dad, you should ensure this. This is a good thing to ensure. So just kind of leave it. Because I think people assume that it's a very I actually want to do this today. Whereas there's so much time that gets put into every minutiae of the idea. And there are some frameworks to it. I get a lot of comedy writers in. Again, the director who I work with on my special, Stan Baluyan, is brilliant at that. He came in and understands the channel really well, and he kind of runs these sessions with me. And
oh wow, so you have like writing sessions.
We have writing days. Another guy called James comes in, who's a comedy writer for Jimmy Carr, and we all sit there, and it's just kind of like towards the end of the day, it's really funny because we just kind of like swivel on chairs and just like, what about? But there is a lot of structure that comes with that. We've put my ideas into buckets. So there's the loophole bucket, there's the sneak-in bucket, there's the British bucket, and we try and see whether we can put things into various different buckets. I mean, when's this video coming out?
In a bit.
In a couple of months?
Probably, yeah, probably at least a month and a half, if not 2 months. Yeah.
Okay, great. Then I could probably say this. Like we knew that sneak-ins were a really fun genre on YouTube, and so normally people sneak in by going through the security, and we were talking about, okay, how else could you get through security? I mean, you could go under. I mean, Zach also did a great video of sneaking into Glastonbury where he went under the fence. And then someone just said, well, no one's ever gone over. I was like, oh yeah, keep talking. And then eventually we ended up on an idea that we're hopefully doing in a couple of weeks of I broke into a music festival by skydiving in. And
that's funny.
It's fun because it's just taking what you know, doing different thing with that thing. That wasn't explained very well. It's just taking extremes. It's the juxtaposition of those things. And so a lot of the time I'm just kind of walking around. So a video that we had, I turned roadkill into a Michelin star meal. We got that because Aziz and I were driving back from a video, one of the worst videos that we have ever made, which was I made someone's actual dream come true, which is when we found somebody who had a weird dream that they dreamt that gravy was being poured on them from a pickup truck. So we went and filmed this video, and we were kind of driving back. We're like, well, that was rubbish, wasn't it? Anyway, we were driving.
Was it weird because you were pouring gravy on a person?
I was pouring gravy on a person, but also I was like, what am I doing? What are we doing? Did HR, did you check this? And we were driving back and we saw some roadkill on the side of the road, and we were just spitballing. It's like, okay, roadkill, that's a thing. Everyone knows. What could you do with that thing? You can turn it back into a living thing. That's not possible. Can you eat it? Oh, that's not very good. Oh, maybe let's work on that. Okay, who should we serve it to? Our parents? No, need more steaks. Oh, food critics. Great. And that's how the iteration just slowly builds and builds and builds. It's a little bit like improv. It's yes and. It's like, okay. And then everything needs to have kind of stakes in the end. So you want to be able to sit down and read that title and kind of get everything you want from it. The other most important thing is to go back to the conversation about that guy. You need to be able to have a sentence that somebody will say to their mate in the pub. Have you seen that guy that insert thing there?
And it has to be easy to say.
And it has to be something easy to say.
Yeah.
And if you've got that, then you've got a good video. So have you seen that video where that guy technically became the richest man in the world for 8 minutes? No? Oh, you should check it out. But if it's, have you seen that video where that guy tries to find a woman from a stock photo, and the stock photo was in his flat for like 2 years, and he always wondered who the woman was, but he never really took it out because he was too lazy. So he was wondering, who is this woman? That doesn't work. So it's got to be really succinct. Does it pass the pub test? A great creator called Uber Butler, well, actually I'm not sure whether he's a creator, but a real kind of trailblazer in these kinds of ideas, used to work for Vice, used to say the same thing. He said, if I tell the idea to someone at the pub and they look at me in a weird way, I've got a good idea. That was his way of looking at it.
I wanted to ask you about serialized content versus one-offs, because running for mayor felt like a series, felt like a movement.
Yeah.
And you ended that series by announcing another series, and with the treasure hunt. Right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
that did terribly.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about serialized content versus one-offs, because we're in the era of YouTube where serialized content is kind of coming back right now. Ryan Trahan leading the charge with the Penny series, and kind of recognizing like ephemeral serialized content is very fun. Something that has an end date, right, is very fun for people to latch on to. Yeah. Ryan went from 30 days to 7 days, and it was very enjoyable to watch 7 days of a series. You've done series. Talk to me about that difference between a one-off, kind of viral concept or, idea versus I'm going to commit to this for multiple episodes.
Yeah, the mayor stuff was the first time I tried it, and it was really scary. Not only was I entering legitimately into one of the biggest political processes in this country as an independent candidate. But I remember the way I ran for London Mayor was because a mate of mine in a group chat literally said, you won't run for London Mayor.
But you must have said something prior to that. I'm going to run for London Mayor.
No, I had sent in, there was a BBC News article that said, who we think is going to be running for London Mayor, and I had all of the candidates. And I just put this in because there were a few odd candidates. And my mate George just responded to, you won't do it. And I think I looked into it, and this moment in my apartment where I was with my housemate Dan, and I was kind of pacing furiously. I was like, is this a good idea or is this awful? And he was like, mate, just go for it. And so I handed in my papers. I paid my £10,000 deposit, which is what you need to do. And then I was like, oh, we've got 7 weeks of campaigning here. What am I going to do? So the serialization of the content was almost an afterthought.
Yeah.
It was almost like, oh, I've got myself in this mess. I now need to do something about it. So that's when, of course, I worked with lovely Lawrence Fox, my bestie.
Very good storytelling to have an adversary.
Absolutely,
you needed one in that.
And I was worried that with the running in a political election, you've got to, I mean, whatever side you stake your flag, left or right, you lose 50% of your audience. And so I needed to make it very apolitical, but whilst also still having an adversary. And luckily, I had Lawrence, who was so polemic in his kind of reputation that universally he was a great adversary for me to have.
You needed an opportunity to win because ultimately you were not going to win.
I was not going to win, of course I wasn't, and
nor were you trying to.
Nor was I trying to win. My number one point, my manifesto was "Don't vote for me." And then Nico Omilana came out, and he was also running for London Mayor as well, which was interesting.
Let's talk about that. Because I think for someone who I would assume prides themselves on originality, originality of ideas.
Sure.
For me, it would bother me if I was like, I am doing this, and then like, now the narrative is 2 YouTubers run for mayor, not here's the YouTuber who ran for mayor.
I initially had that thought process.
Of course.
I was on about 400,000 subscribers at the time. He was on about 4 or 5 million at the time. And I handed in my papers, and then the papers, like the newspapers released the list of the official candidates. And I saw Nico's name on there and I thought, oh, he's done it as well. Luckily I had got a video out there already. So I know that we had the same idea at exactly the same time, but to the kind of a casual observer, it might have looked like I had the idea first, and then Nico had kind of taken it from me, which he definitely didn't. I just want to put that on the record. Absolutely not. But that made it a little bit easier. But then I kind of started realizing, no, we've got completely different audiences. Number one, I'm not doing this to try and get votes. If anything, I'm going to be in the next up on the recommended sidebar of YouTube. So I'm actually super glad that we both ran. He did something completely different in terms of like his campaign videos than what I did. It meant that I got to know him quite well and us have chats. There's a great moment where when the election results get announced, we are all in a room about the same size as this room as we are now. 20 candidates who have, for the last 6 weeks, been slinging all sorts of shit at each other. And it is so awkward. You have the far right, the far left, everybody in there, and you're just kind of awkwardly shuffling. And Nico was stood next to me in children's sunglasses. And I just kind of looked to my left at this guy and thought, you are like one of a kind of an individual. And so that was a cool moment to have. But initially it did frustrate me. But ultimately, we are all a rising tide lifts all ships, and we were both YouTubers making content, and the UK has a very proud reputation and history of alternative candidates. Let's just say that. I got a lot. The only stick I would get would be like, "Oh, don't you think it's like you're taking away this serious process to be silly or to do a stunt?" I was like, no, I think it actually celebrates our democracy so well that literally anybody can run if they would like to. So that was, but weirdly, although it didn't do the biggest numbers, or it is still the thing that people come up to me is, oh, I voted for you for London Mayor, and and it's the golden goose. It's what we all are looking for, because as a creator, it removes slightly the burden of having to come up with something new every single time. Audiences really buy into it; they really enjoy it. We've seen it with Ryan's Penny series, but it's hard to find a format that you are really bold enough in your own kind of thought process to be like, yeah, this is the one. I'm gonna make 7 videos about this, because previously, if a viral video I did doesn't work, it's fine. We've got 5 others that we're gonna be making over the next month, so that's okay. But if you start and it doesn't do well at the beginning, you're like, oh no, I'm in it now. This is a worry.
Is there a personal test that you have in terms of appetite for risk? Of no, I won't do that, because maybe it's an assumption, but when I watch your videos, you don't strike me as someone. And maybe it's because I see some of you and myself that's like, I don't think I would do that.
Yeah, risk is a really good thing to talk about, because I've done things that are inherently relatively risky. I mean, I put up a golden statue of Vladimir Putin in a town that had a penis head on the top of his head. And I spoke to a few people and said, is this a really, really stupid idea? And I don't speak to my family because they immediately say, no,
of course,
absolutely,
no, don't do that.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
But I try to talk to people who are in the know and say, is this a risky thing to do? And I think we have definitely, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we've definitely not done videos because they have been probably too risky. He says as he's about to leave this interview to go cook something in a volcano. It's risk is a big part of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because that Putin statue is something that a John Oliver would do. But John Oliver has the backing of HBO and a huge legal team. And you don't have the same resources, so you have to be even more careful.
Were there ramifications for that?
No, there weren't.
I mean, not that you know of yet.
Not that I know of just yet.
Yeah.
And I was very paranoid for a couple of weeks/months afterwards.
Yeah.
And I still am quite nervous. I spoke to more and more people who work in security services and work in the government, and they've said, no, like you're okay. You're pretty. Yeah, they think I'm okay. That's not a test to anybody who's...
Well, they seem a bit weak.
Yeah.
To me, candidly. I would say the Russian security might want to...
Right, moving on.
Maybe reconsider. Yeah.
So there has been a few times where it's been a bit like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Is there a brand test for you? Like in your head, are you like, the brand of Max Fosh shouldn't go that far?
I think that's just like with the team.
The team.
It's like, does that make you laugh? Is it not Max Foshy?
Yeah.
We've had a video idea of starting respectful chants at football matches. So like the referee's doing his best. Right. And like we spoke for a long time. Is this Max Foshy? And we're kind of on the fence about this because like football is such a special thing to people, and for me to come in and to kind of like, ooh, look at me and play with it, and that I don't want that idea. Like,
I mean, candidly, what I'll say is I don't think it's funny enough.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Maybe.
That might be something that like you can get, like that feels like what you were talking about before, like an Instagram idea.
Yeah.
It's like I can get it pretty quick. Yeah, it would spread.
But it'd be a clip. It's a clip. It's fine. It's a TikTok. There you go. I'll make a TikTok.
Because the process of that, I understand there would be challenges, but I can already envision the challenges. And I think, again, like when we talk about the fact that your videos start with the end, and then you have to care about going into the process. The process has to have ups and downs.
Yeah. Pinch points. Yeah. What goes wrong.
Exactly. And so I have to be like so unfamiliar with the process that I'm willing to sit in on it. Like wing walking, I was unfamiliar with. Hatching an egg, I was unfamiliar with, right? Even the one where you spoil the play for your friend.
Yeah.
That was funny.
That was fun.
I was unfamiliar. I was like, how's this going to happen?
Yeah.
You know, so I think you have to be relatively unfamiliar.
Same with the private investigator.
Yeah, you're unfamiliar with it all.
You just don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know.
The private investigator video, I think, is just like, I'm really proud of that idea because it just taps into, like, it's pub conversations that you'd have with your friends.
And like real life thoughts, which is really important.
Real life thoughts and idioms. That's where the elephant in the room came from. That was just an idiom. It's like, what if I actually spend 24 hours with an elephant in the room? And
that's really funny. I have to be honest, I never thought about it as like the elephant in the room.
Really? Well, this is we came like the video did terribly. The video did really poorly because it was too much of a stretch for the audience. You had to know the idiom. You had to get the context. Actually, living with an elephant for 24 hours, not much happens. They just eat and bathe and sleep.
I thought it was just because it was a big scary thing.
No, it's like there's a big elephant.
There's an elephant. Let's address the elephant in the room.
Listen to this guy.
Yeah.
Learning.
Yeah. I didn't go to Harrow's. Okay? Listen, I'm not part of your posh elite. Okay, I don't understand things like you. What makes you've talked a lot about the stress and the like intricacies of good hook and hook's position and like the beginning of the video. What makes a good hook and exposition? Like what makes people continue to care?
The best videos are always you get the joke, but there needs to be a question that you have that gets answered at the end. So PI, oh, that's a funny like idea. I wonder what they found out about Max. You have that at the end. spoiling the theatre for my friend using bald men. Oh, that's a funny idea. Get the concept. Oh, but was his friend pissed off? Right. So there's always a bit in the voiceover when I do my voiceover voice. It's like, so I had to buy 12 bald men to get them into the theatre. But why? Well, and so the but why is normally the question that I want someone to answer at the end. So that's the main.
That's good.
I mean, we even found for some of our episodes that were just Samir and I that were a little bit more scripted, especially at the beginning. It was important for us to open a new unclosed loop in the beginning. Like, you're not just getting what you clicked on.
Yeah.
But we're going to hit you with something unexpected that you didn't know you're also going to get this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow. And that hopefully would keep people.
From the other side of it as well, creative partner Ed, he said that he realized he's got access to my analytics. And he said, I realized people drop off when you say the word "and so." And I know that you guys spoke to the Try guys about this. Yeah. Where you do the big stunt, and when you're trying to then hit them with the emotional tie-up to it, they don't care.
Right.
Like, and so I've gone wind walking. And so I have shown that you can actually do all of your life admin while strapped to the top of it. Don't care. I'm off. I'm gone.
Your videos end very
you don't
quickly.
Offer any reflection
you don't
on the experience.
And so we're trying more and more with the videos we're making at the moment to weave in that "and so" whilst I'm doing the thing. Whilst I'm at the culmination of the video. So then it ties it up from an emotional storytelling point of view, but also it ties it up from the big stunt that's happening right now.
Yeah, I wanted more of that in the hatching end video. Because I was just like, is he not just completely floored that this happened?
Go and be free.
You know, it almost moved so fast at the end that I was like, wait, hold on, Max, isn't this insane?
Yeah, I guess that's your attention brain on.
Yeah.
Also, do you ever visit the fish?
That's
what I wondered too. I was like, maybe wait a little longer.
He's been looked after by a guy who lives quite close to me, so I'm going to need to check in with Max Fosh and see what he's doing. But we had an argument in the office about, okay, how much more of the video do we have after we see that a fish has hatched out of caviar? Because some people in the office were like, no, as soon as they've seen the fish, they're clicking off. You've done what you said you were going to. You hatched a fish from caviar. That's the end of the video. And so we kind of came to a happy medium, but that's why it just is so quick through that last bit. It was like, oh, he grew up, he was great, and now he lives in here. Bye.
I guess for me, if I was sitting in that room, I would have said, the next question is, well, how big does this fish get? And did you actually hatch a healthy fish? Because I would have assumed it would have been like crazy weird because it was.
We hatched. There were quite a few in the video. It was like that. There was one. There were quite a few that hatched, but then there was one that we really kind of
connected with.
Connected with. It's like you're coming.
You're the one.
And so but that's a little bit of creative license there.
How do you balance making comedy for a UK audience versus an American audience? And do you think about that? And what is even your breakdown of like where your audience is from?
Mainly US, actually. So
mainly US.
35% US.
Oh, wow.
25% UK. So it's mainly US, but mainly because there's more of you. Yeah. And in the US, I think I'm viewed as British guy. I'm the British guy. I'm the posh. Well, not even posh. I'm the guy from Britain. Yeah. So in all the movies that you might have seen about a British guy, like I probably sound a little bit like the people from Notting Hill, for example. I mean, I grew up in Notting Hill.
Lovely place.
Lovely place. Lovely part of the world.
2 weeks ago. It was great.
I weirdly have a channel in China on their version of their social media called Bilibili. And my nickname, I've amazingly got about 500,000 followers in China.
In China?
In China. And whenever I meet somebody on the street who is kind of Chinese and they've come over for a vacation, they just point at me and just say, UK guy. So my nickname in China is just the UK guy.
How did that come about?
Yeah, can we talk about your Chinese distribution? Yeah, because you say you're not a businnesman, but like syndicating your show to China seems like a very businessman move.
Financially, I think I'm being absolutely... I'm not actually not going to say that, but I think that someone might be pocketing some money because the money that I'm getting in is not very much at all. I've got 500,000 subscribers over there, but I'm seeing nothing. That came about because a company reached out to me and said, we'll do everything. They didn't even ask me to send them the videos as like an MP4 file. They just ripped it from YouTube.
So there's a world where they could have done that without you knowing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
100%.
So in the reality, you're winning here.
Yeah,
because at least you're getting something from it.
There's more eyeballs.
Yeah.
And I think I want to make a documentary where I do a stand-up show in China. I think that would be
that's a good idea. I like that.
So interesting because will they be a translator next to me? Will it be subtitles, like surtitles above the stage? How does that work?
I mean, within the next year or so, there'd be live dubbing and live translation probably.
I'd be curious to know, do you actually have an audience there?
Like is there a fan base?
But is there fandom?
I think there is fan. So I did a show. I did the stand-up show in Edinburgh at the Comedy Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
And last year it was for a whole month. The venue I was performing in only was about 120 seats. Every single show for the 30-day run, I would have in the front row maybe 10 to 15 Chinese fans, and they would come to the show. They couldn't speak a word of English, and they would sit there stony faced.
They couldn't understand it.
They couldn't understand a word. And then after the show, and I kind of like say hello to people, get a few pictures, they were so excited. And they were like, but I realized very quickly they couldn't speak English. So they would buy tickets to the show that they knew they wouldn't be able to understand. It was quite off-putting as a comedian, like your entire front row is not responding at all. And they would just kind of say the words Max Fosh, Billy Billy. So Billy Billy is the name of the platform. So Max Fosh, Billy Billy, Max Fosh, Billy Billy. And that fandom is unlike, they're not as cool around people that they might watch. So I was having lunch once outside, and this woman walked past, and suddenly I heard a thud and then a huge scream. And I thought, oh my God. And she was just pointing at me. Wow. And she was like, Max Fosh, Billy Billy, Max Fosh, Billy Billy. And I was like, hi. And she just kind of like, she showed me the profile on Billy Billy and said, yeah, this is like pointing at me and then pointing at the phone. I said, yeah. And we got a picture and she left. But it like to have someone audibly like I was at a Harry Styles concert, like audibly scream at me just being there was something really interesting.
That is fascinating. I'm incredibly fascinated by why you think your videos and your comedy and just in general, like why is it universal? Like why does it work there? Because my question was about why you think the UK comedy works in the US, but now I have a new question, which is
why does it work?
Why does it work in China?
I have no idea.
But what makes comedy universal? Like what makes a good joke or a good like bit of comedy that can travel?
I mean, contrast. It's juxtaposition. Yeah. So, I mean, Mr. Bean, I think, is the largest entertainment export of the UK because he's silent. Kabe Lame, most followed creator on TikTok.
Kabe Lame?
Kabe Lame.
Yeah.
I've actually never said it.
You've never said it out loud.
I've said it written down.
I was watching you work that out.
Yeah.
Karabi Lame.
It's like Michelle. It's like when I met Michelle Carre. I was like, Michelle.
How intense is this R?
Yeah. But it's completely like voiceless. You don't need to. And so I think that maybe is why the videos do well in China. And in the States, I don't know. It's just kind of floppy hair posh guy being silly. I think it's the silliness. I think silliness is universal. We all have experiences at school where someone's played pranks, but what I'm kind of doing is hopefully amplifying that to a new level.
I think it's also the wholesome nature of the pranks, right? Like again, like I get uncomfortable watching pranks that are ruining someone's day.
Yeah.
That makes me really uncomfortable.
It's punching down.
Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable thing to watch. I mean, candidly, I love, Nick Amalana, I think, has made some of the greatest videos on the platform, including the most racist town in America. I think that's one of the greatest videos on YouTube. But him and Gideon, their Biggest Menace series, there was a lot of that made me uncomfortable to watch. And I think that that some of the pranks, like I think I also have an adverse reaction to the concept of like YouTubers being connected with like pranks that would mess up someone's day. I have like so much pride in what we do on the platform that when something like that goes viral, I'm like, I don't want that brand for, YouTubers.
Yeah.
So I do think that, probably it's not about UK humor. It's just that you are doing more wholesome versions of pranks or, silly jokes, which are fun because you want to see people's reactions and you want to see what happens. But it's wholesome.
It's always done with a cheeky smile.
Yeah.
Like even with the pranks on my sister, like I sued my sister and getting her to turn up to a courtroom that had like a jury and a judge and her own lawyer.
Yeah.
At the end, she won the case. Because if I had got her into that scenario and then I won the case, it looks really mean. It's like, oh, this
doesn't leave you with a good feeling.
It doesn't leave you with a good feeling in your mouth.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it is, okay, where is the cheeky wink to camera or even the cheeky wink to the person that I'm talking to here that makes the audience feel like, okay, no, that's fun. And sometimes I don't get it absolutely right and the audience lets me know.
What are some of those instances? Like, have you had specific videos that you think have kind of gone
Weirdly,
over the
actually,
edge?
The finding the woman in the stock photo series was, I got quite a lot of negative reaction towards that because I can understand that it looks like guy on internet tries to find woman that doesn't want to be found.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally, yeah.
And so in the first couple of episodes, I was seeing these comments coming through, and I was kind of like, oh, huh, actually, I agree with that.
That's valid.
That's a valid
that
criticism.
video could change her life in a way that she had no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, in the end, that was exactly the case. I managed to find her. I emailed her. She was like, I'd rather I stayed anonymous, and obviously completely respected that and didn't put her in the video. But I was approaching, and that's when a time I probably got it a little bit wrong, but I was approaching at it at a time where like, hey, we're in this global pandemic together. Let's show how interconnected we all are. And I was hoping that the cheeky wink to camera and the, hey, like, this is all fun. Like, I'm going on Australian national television to try and find this woman, and being a bit silly, I was hoping that would convey through to the messaging, but obviously didn't to everybody. And and I can understand that criticism.
What's the vibe of YouTube business in London?
Zach Alsop and I speak about this a lot, and
Yeah.
we laugh that if we were doing this properly, we'd all move to LA.
Yeah, you moved to America.
Move to the US because the difference in brand budgets and opportunity over there is wild. Like I spoke to Yes Theory, I spoke to Thomas, and I asked him, I was like, hey, like transparently, like how much you get paid for brand deals? And what he said blew my mind.
Yeah. I mean, that's a jaw dropper. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But they're also a very premium brand.
They're
on the
very
platform.
premium brand. They are a premium brand. But I was looking at it from okay, right, over the last 6 months to maybe 9 months in terms of average views, we're pretty similar. Sure. And I looked at other creators. Okay. And it was just completely different. And I found that super interesting. And so
they also skew though self-development, which I think does carry a different weight than just pure entertainment.
Yeah, I think
there's a transformation.
There are some other Theory, I think, probably is.
But you are right, obviously, like the rates in America.
The rates in America, but if I was a channel with an average viewership of over 1 million viewers per video, and I was going to a brand, I know what I could charge in the US, and I know what I could charge in the UK, and that is completely different. And the only people that in the UK, there are a few, but that come to mind, obviously the Sidemen, with what they're doing over here is truly like revolutionary from a British UK standpoint.
Yeah.
And they are now like not only just one of the biggest like British YouTube group, they're like one of the UK's main media exports. Right. And like from like a macro level, like a national level.
Yeah.
And that is really inspiring and really interesting. And I try and learn as much as I can from the guys that work with them and them themselves.
What about AdSense for you? Is it like what? I guess how much do you make on AdSense in a month?
So probably around a really good month is £20,000.
And how many views is that?
That is, I mean, it's warped now with shorts, but
that's fair.
Yeah. I would say. The best month I've done is like 46 million views.
Wow. On long form content?
No. If that was
Max.
If that was on long form content, I would be eating good.
Yeah.
No, it's probably the Welcome to Luton month was like 15 million views.
Yeah.
And that was like £30,000 to £35,000 for that month, which is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And so now the average for 2023, it's probably £12,000 to £18,000 a month, and that immediately goes to the costs of the company.
Yeah,
so that's
team
the
ideas.
Team, the ideas day.
Your ideas cost money. Flying to Iceland with 3 people.
Before I've even filmed a video, and so that's where the money comes from. The brand deal money is always paying for the video. Like those margins might be different every time, but if I'm spending more than £6,000 or £7,000, I'll get a brand deal on it. But there are some months that are incredibly profitable because the video idea doesn't require a huge amount of money. And actually, the Iceland video is one of those because all it is flights and accommodation.
Got it.
And walking.
But you aren't getting US brands as brand deals, right? Although you have a US audience.
Yes.
Interesting.
I'm getting brands like Dashlane as password manager. They're a US brand, but I'm getting UK rates. So
interesting.
They obviously, like, even though I'm providing the exact same value as a US creator in terms of the demographics and the numbers, I'm providing that exact value, I'm getting the UK rates.
I do think time in market dictates rate quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Max Fosh in 3 years, if you remain even at the same place you're at,
you
know, if your views are in a similar place, but your brand is more established, I think you'll get better rates.
The more irreplaceable you become,
the more solidified like Max Fosh is, the higher the rates, right? And I think that's important.
I think they are absolute behemoths in the sense of like their time in market has been enormous, and also how influential they've been on the platform is enormous. So although like the objective like numbers on their videos at the moment might be similar to like I agree, all of their other metrics are much more valuable.
Do you look out at the year and say, I need to make this many videos and this many of them need to be branded? Like what do those numbers look like? No.
I need to I should be more like, okay, this year I'm going to speak to a brand, let's do a deal now for 12 videos for the year. But I'm so nervous that I'm not going to be able to provide the video that I said I'm going to because of so many external factors that sometimes just mean it's not possible. If this volcano doesn't erupt, I can't make the video. And so I often find myself scrambling in a situation where like...
And you sell the idea to the brand.
I sell the idea.
Interesting.
And I say to them, look, this is going to do really, really well. And I'm trying to sell the volcano video idea at the moment because I was like, it's expensive to get there. But I'm like, guys, this is going to be a really big video.
The way I would do it.
Yeah.
And the way we do it is say, hey, buy across at minimum 3 episodes.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't really have much say in what those episodes are, but buy across 3, and it's a portfolio of Max Fosh.
Yeah.
One of them might hit, one of them might be average, you know, one of them might do a little bit better, but the aggregate of those is going to perform.
So I've done that in the past. And actually, that was after we had this exact conversation in Europe.
Oh, that's right.
You said the same thing, and I started doing this.
I'm so predictable.
And then the only worrying thing that I had after that is not being. Let's say it's like 3 videos over 3 months. Is not being able, just in case something goes wrong from a production point of view, that I can't give them that 3rd video in that 3rd month. It means slightly goes to 4 months. And so I've sometimes do deals of 3 videos over 6 months. That helps me a little bit. But it's so changeable, and I need to be better with. And also, I think that brands have become, at the moment, they might have less spend to do with UK creators. I don't know whether you guys are feeling that in the US, but they might be feeling a bit of a pinch from marketing budgets, potentially.
Yeah.
That's kind of across the board.
I think that's across the board, yeah. Are you looking at that and, like, are you nimble enough? You said you had a ton of runway. Like, are you nimble enough to, you know, deal with that? Or are you trying to diversify now and
I am definitely nimble enough. Yeah, 100% nimble enough to deal with that.
I think people who are creatives, like true creatives, have to remain nimble enough to do that.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to pivot. You don't want to put that amount of strain and stress on
because
what you're doing.
Otherwise it's just a bit of a disaster, and that's when I really would lose it.
Yeah.
Is you know, as you're like focusing so much of your time and energy on making videos right now, when I watched your comedy special, I thought it was very good.
Thank you.
Especially like as your first comedy special. I'm like, that's really fun. If I paid money and went to that and didn't know who you were, I would have a good time.
Great.
And that's like, I think that says a lot.
We're looking to tour the States next year, baby.
Oh, you are?
So come on, yeah.
We would love to come.
The Palladium is big too.
Palladium was
footage of you on stage.
Big.
It's crazy. I feel like insert any comedian and you'd go, yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah,
like
you look at
his
it and you're
biggest
like,
name and you'd go,
that's a big show.
It's a big show.
Big show.
That's a big show.
Big show.
So you obviously, you said you're going to tour next year in the US. Like, how much does stand-up comedy play into what you view the next chapter of your life or career?
Massively.
Okay.
Like, it's super important. It's super important to view me as a kind of an all-rounding entertainer. Someone actually said to me the other day, they were talking about a conversation they were having with their friend, and my name came up, and their friend said, "Oh, the comedian," and that was really life affirming. I was like, okay, there's I'm not just the guy on YouTube, and so in some corner of someone's mind, they view me as a comedian, and so I'm looking at in the comedy space. There's always space for a posh, floppy-haired British guy. Currently, it's held by Jack Whitehall, who is very, very well known both here in the UK, but also in the States. And so I'm looking a lot at what he's doing and thinking, okay, Jack has been able to, he's done stand-up comedy, then he's pivoting into acting and pivoting into other things and other forms of entertainment, some TV presenting, and does the Netflix show Travels with My Father, which is incredibly successful. And that's more kind of presenting than it is stand-up comedy, and trying to really watch his progression about how he's doing things. And so I think the stand-up is so important that it's not just guy who
growing into comedic storyteller.
And also it just makes me a better storyteller on YouTube. Like I came back and the muscle of being inspired was just going through the roof. Going up on stage and having to be funny and trying to think of things on the fly means that this volcano video came up it came up whilst I was on stage. I was like, okay, I'd had a seed of an idea about volcanoes. Oh shit, I'll get that. I'll remember that. What's your name? Where you're from? That kind of thing. So
that's cool.
It's really, really useful.
I think it's a big part of even why we knew we wanted to sit down with you. For both of us, it's really interesting to look at creators right now and ask ourselves, is this someone who in 5, 10, maybe even 20 years will still have a career, no matter if it's on YouTube or if it's in television or comedy, whatever it is? That to
How long will the AdSense pay off?
Yeah.
Well, because if it's not 5 to 10 years, we don't sit down.
That's good to know.
Exactly. People always talk about like creators being like the entertainers of the future, right? Or like the next generation of Hollywood and entertainment and all of that. But I think it's really interesting for us who are talking to all these people to really sit and think, is this someone that we think actually will, in 20 years, someone will look back at this interview and get so much value and find it so interesting because you have done so many other things.
Yeah. I really hope so, and I kind of want to say on the record, like there's unfinished business in the comedy. Like I want to do more things. I want to, and I'm going to. I'm going to say it right. I'm going to play an arena at some point, and that's going in my mind. That's going to happen, but I've just got to think about how I make that happen. Is that like the case of just keep plugging away on YouTube videos and building the subscriber base and building the numbers, or is it just like, no, you've got to kind of completely remove yourself and just do stand up for a year? I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of comedians whose first big special or first show doesn't look like the London Palladium, right? And obviously you'd done it prior, but like I would say this is the advantage of the future entertainers. You come with distribution. Right? And like I do think you need to cut your teeth as a comedian, more before you get there, which is, you saw how long it took to become a YouTube creator. Look at how long that took. I mean, I know it too. It took us a decade to become actual YouTube creators. That you're going to have to put in a decade to that too, right? And just keep performing. And you probably have an accelerant because you have a distribution behind you.
But going back to the conversation about YouTube as being the entertainers of the future, who do you see in the YouTube space as obviously like Logan, JJ, Jimmy as the next kind of like The Rock or Jimmy Fallon? Like who are the creators that you really see? I mean, guess we're already seeing them.
We're the majority of the people that we try and sit down with.
It's
Amelia
it's Emma, it's Amelia, it's Minya Chihuahua here in the UK.
I mean, even the Yes Theory
Michelle
guys.
Carey,
Michelle.
I mean, I think about Thomas Bragg from Yes Theory and Amar, and like they made a movie.
It was so good.
And it was really good.
It's so good.
And it was like really good. And
they filled their own theaters.
They filled their own theaters.
So
and I look at the future and I'm like, I think they're going to make massive movies. Like they might not even be in them, but they are some of the best storytellers right now. And Thomas just turned 30. Like you think about how young these people are compared to who's running Hollywood and who's in the business. It's like, obviously like Ryan Trahan, he knows more about how to engage an audience than most people in, our world. So whether or not these people will be in front of the camera or behind, I don't know. But I think this crop that we know as the creator economy of right now is the future of entertainment. And it's the present of entertainment, but I think like it will progress into a lot more. And we might see people behind the camera that are behind the scenes that we are familiar with, but that are just so good at storytelling.
I mean, look at Liza Koshy, right? Like Liza Koshy had a whole period of time on YouTube, heavily on YouTube, and is in 5 movies this year.
Really?
Yeah. Like even that right there, there's already comps for this already happening, and there's people already moving into Hollywood.
That is wild. And yeah, people don't see Logan now as a YouTuber.
Totally.
They see him as a wrestler. They see him as a businessman.
So I know you have to catch a flight to Iceland, to a volcano.
We do.
But you did this in the special, and I'm going to have to do it.
Are you doing?
Yeah,
oh my God! Here we go. This is amazing. I'm going to see. We're not going to tell them what you're going to do and just kind of see.
Oh, I wasn't going to do that, but
Right.
I will. I'm actually going to do something different. I know what you're thinking. You said the eyes are the window to the soul.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And then you said, and then you said that's not true. It's actually someone's iPhone notes.
Yeah.
May I have your phone?
Oh no! Yes, you can. I've done this. I've done this to enough people that I deserve to have my notes looked through.
I can't wait to read these.
I mean, first, this is incredible because the first one is passwords in all caps, which is just, for a guy who's been followed by private investigators, this is unbelievable.
Where they gave you advice about.
They gave advice about how to be more secure.
Here, do you want to? Feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
there's a lot of ideas in there.
There's a lot of ideas.
I don't want to give away your ideas.
No, please do, because those are ones that I've decided. There's one at the bottom of the ideas where I just wrote down things, which are
Oh wow, a lot of street smart ideas.
a lot of street smart ideas.
Okay, so you had an idea for Street Smart to go to Wimbledon.
Done that.
Done that? Okay.
Yeah.
Things to say in the chair. Mixed. Oh, these are like.
Oh, this was the thing a brand thing I did for Wimbledon last week.
Really?
Oh wow, you did this.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Oh, it was a brand deal with Wimbledon?
Yeah.
Go all the way to the bottom.
Go all literally bottom. Go to scroll. That's what I would do. I would go all the way to the bottom.
All the way to the bottom. Sorry, we're not experienced
Okay, well,
with
if I
this.
go all the way to the bottom, I'm at 2013.
Perfect.
Fine.
Yeah.
What was that? What was Max saying in 2013?
There's a bucket list.
Okay,
read the bucket
let's see
list.
the bucket list.
I think
C. King Tut's grave. B. Part of a flash mob.
I don't want to be part of a flash
Here's-
mob at all.
This one just says Great Wall of China. Sleep in a hammock. Visit every continent.
These are so attainable. Sleep in a hammock.
These are the most bucket list things. It's like I went on Google.
Graffiti a public wall.
Graffiti a public wall.
Yep.
That was my bad boy phase.
Skydive. Start own company.
Make friends with 5 strangers.
I've written that.
Yeah.
This was what I was watching a lot of yesterday.
Yeah.
I was gonna say get kissed in the rain. And 10 years later, anything?
No, I need to organise that.
Yeah.
I don't normally snog in the rain, but I could probably organise it.
Skinny dip.
Wait. It says punch someone in the face.
Does it?
Yeah.
No, I've never done that.
Let's knock it off.
Yeah, here we That's so funny.
Wow.
I think I've been headbutted before, but I've never actually punched someone
It's
in
not
the
on
face.
here.
No, it's not.
it's not on
I
here.
failed.
Yeah.
Now that you've brought it up, it does feel like I should try the other thing.
Okay.
A lot of times, I think I won't be able to do it. Before this, though, when we were having lunch, I realized that it's possible. Yeah.
Great. And what do we have for lunch?
Capture this moment when I tell it to you.
Not what I asked, but that's fine.
It was a rap.
It was a rap.
Just capture that.
Was it a nice rap?
Delightful.
It was. Okay.
It was delightful.
Where are you guys? What are you guys
Delightful.
doing after you're in London for a bit? Where are you guys going over the next kind of week?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. That sounds like a lot.
Frankly, it is.
Okay. That is, I mean, have you got anywhere in particular or just everywhere?
Great Britain.
Great Britain, so literally just everywhere. Okay, so you're going to Northern Ireland as well?
Here and there.
Here and there. Okay. Are you with, is it just you two? Are you just here in London by yourselves, or are you with, family and friends?
I am
mainly us.
I am here.
You're here. And,
With Colin.
And Colin as well. Is there anyone else in the team?
Just us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I might have to... this studio, how did you find this studio?
Conundrum. It was a conundrum.
No.
To find. Does that count?
Only word that came to mind was kangaroos.
You know what's funny is working out the alphabet in your head while you do it is the hardest thing.
It is the hardest thing to do.
That is hard.
For a bit of context, I would play a game.
No context. That's the end. You got to get to ice.
Yeah, you got to watch.
Thank you so much for coming
actually.
on, Max Fosh. Everybody, thank you for coming on.
Oh,
Do we clap at the end of the show?
Some people would.
Okay.
Some people would.
I, for one,
would not.
Would not.
No. Sexy green man over there.
Looking right back at you.